Hello everybody and welcome to this week's video. For this week I wanted to talk about the Prima Marketing Tropicals palette and kind of give my thoughts on it and how I like it as a watercolor palette. I'm going to start with the colors, and I wanted to say that the colors don't come with any sort of pigment information or naming system to let you know what it is that you are getting. So I'm going to talk about these a little bit and kind of let you know roughly what colors I think you're getting in this palette. Now these come in a different order other than what I have put them in. I wanted them to be in spectrum order and not the order that they are shown in their own swatching sheet. So to start is number 19, and I thought this was very similar to a quinacridone rose. I compared this across a few different brands and that was unanimously what I came up with. Number 17 is more of a vermilion color if you are familiar with Royal Talens brands. However, if you are comparing it to like a Winsor & Newton, this is very similar to a cadmium red hue pale. Next is number 21, and this one looked very much like cadmium yellow hue from Winsor & Newton. Number 14 is a little bit warmer, and it looks more similar to a Naples yellow. My first thought was that this looked a little bit more like a yellow ochre, but comparing my colors to it, I didn't find any that really seemed to match it, like my eye kind of picked it up. Number 16 is definitely a greenish yellow, and it's most similar to the one that I have from Holbein. Number 18 and 13 are incredibly similar colors. They look like a viridian hue or a phthalo green depending on the brand or naming system that they're going by, and really I thought that you could go with either one of these colors and replace it with another color that would have been more helpful to the overall palette. Number 23 looks more like a Prussian blue from Mission Gold or an indigo from Holbein or Winsor & Newton. Number 15 is very similar to 23, and from what I can tell it looks like number 23 but perhaps with a little bit of cobalt blue added to it. Number 20 is basically your standard dioxazine violet. Number 22 is a quinacridone rose or a quinacridone magenta depending on the brand that you are looking at. It is a slightly more pinky version of the number 19, which is closer but not a true red. And finally, number 24 looks like a burnt umber. The tin I thought was very sturdy and constructed very well. I was really impressed with the quality of it. I was happy to see that the edges were finished, so you don't have to worry about holding it in a way that will hurt your fingers, and you don't have to worry about giving this set to children and having them potentially hurt themselves on a raw, unfinished edge. Also, each set that they sell is marked with a sticker on top of the tin. If you chose to remove the sticker down the road, say you wanted to repurpose it with your own colors, the stickers are extremely hard to get off, even with a store-bought adhesive remover. The tin also comes with plenty of space to fit up to 8 more half pans, and this is probably my favorite feature of all, especially since these sets are a little limited to the specific color palettes that they have and do have some color limitations. I really appreciate that you can add colors that you would like to make it a more well-rounded set. You could also buy multiple sets from this company, mix and match them together. I also appreciated that the second fold-out mixing area stays off of your desk or work area. With a lot of tins, they tend to lean down onto your desk, and you can have a lot of issues with your paint mixture going off onto your desk and potentially staining or harming your work surface or just losing all of the paint that you've worked so hard to mix. This one stays tilted up almost level, and I found that it kind of tilts almost inward, which I thought was a little unique. It's not something that I see very often, but so far I haven't had an issue with my paint rolling back into my palette. And lastly, I really liked that it came with a thumb ring. While this isn't a way that I tend to use my palettes personally, I do think it's a really great addition for those who tend to paint standing up or perhaps paint in plein air. I did think that the paint was a lot of fun to work with. It's nice that it's highly pigmented and easy to re-wet. I liked that there was very little color shift when using it, and overall there is a really good assortment of colors. There is a mix of transparent and opaque colors, and it's hard to tell the makeup of these colors since we don't have any pigment information. I also liked that when drying, there wasn't a lot of filler buildup on the page, which you can see with some cheaper paint and paint palettes. Now, the cons is that there are some unreliable mixes. It does look like there are a lot of multiple pigment mixes in this palette, as well as some opaque colors. I did find that with this palette as is, I couldn't mix a really true gray or black. It tended to lean a little bit green in a lot of my mixes. There are some colors that are pretty redundant, and I would have liked to see them diversify the color palette a little bit more rather than give colors that were so so similar to each other. The paint texture does look a little gritty, and you can see that on the surface that it has this kind of cakey looking texture to it, and in use I found that some of this can break apart and cause some chunks in your paint mixture, which can be kind of difficult when you're trying to get a color that you want to look really nice, or in a final piece when you can't get those chunks to break apart. And also the paint can become a little soft throughout use, so you'll find that you're digging into it a little bit more than you want, and you're picking up more paint than you want on your brush. Now, my final thoughts on this paint palette was that it's really good for the price. I think it's excellent for travel, crafting, sketchbooks, or even as a secondary set to add to your collection. The tin is an amazing value, even if you don't count the paints, and it'll be great to reuse it in the future or just have as part of your collection. You could very easily fill the pans that come with this set as you use them up, or replace the pans with your own favorite brands and continue to use the tin down the road. The rewettability and vibrancy of this paint makes it very fun to use, and the set is very travel friendly given its size. I also found that this set wouldn't be great for a studio or professional use given its unreliable mixes and its tendency to have opaque colors. You would need more colors to round out this set properly, and it would be better suited for beginners looking for a fun or inexpensive set rather than a professional artist looking to create professional or finished works. We don't know the light fastness information as well as the pigment information on any of these, which would lead me to conclude that this is probably more of a high-end student watercolor set. I do think if you were just getting into watercolors, this is a really great introduction and will be a lot of fun and a great way for you to get into the medium. But as you are using up this palette, you will have a hard time replacing this with individual pans from this company, as I don't see any for sale at the moment. But as you go, you could very easily buy paint from another brand and replace it with these. You could either use tube or pre-filled pan watercolors that you could replace and put into this set and fill it with paints that you know the archival quality and the pigment makeup that go into it later down the road. Overall, I really like this set for sketchbooks and for just playing around. I think it's a really nice set to kind of sit and doodle with, but I would mainly keep these for a sketchbook or for something that I know would end up being reproduced later on by either scanning or reproducing it from a photo. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have tried this set, I would love to know your thoughts on it or any of the other sets, as there are quite a few from this company. And I hope that if you haven't, you've found this video to be helpful and you have been able to take some pros and cons from this palette and decide if it will be a good fit for you and your watercolor practice. If you liked this video, I hope that you will consider giving it a thumbs up or perhaps writing a comment to let me know that you liked it, or even subscribe. I hope you all are having a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye!